While the Seiko SARB isn't a new watch by any stretch of the imagination, and there's already a ton of coverage on it on YouTube, there have been some recent developments that I think warrants another look at this watch, especially the SARB035, and especially if you're looking to buy it used. Right now on eBay, the SARB035 is around $300 to $350 used, which is about how much it used to cost new. I'm here to tell you though, if this is your first step up in watch quality, and especially your first step up in Seiko quality, buying this SARB used could be one of the best things you do in your entire watch collecting career. $300 for a watch, especially if you're watching this channel right now, does still seem like a lot of money, especially for a used watch. But I'm going to give you 3 reasons why the SARB035 could very well be the perfect one-watch collection, even when it's used. So we're going to look at design, we're going to look at quality, and we're going to look at value for money. There'll be indoor shots and outdoor shots and macro shots and lume shots. And at the end of the video, I do also have to share at least 2 negatives. One of them almost made me completely hate this watch that I actually do love so much. So let's flip the camera angle to over here and take a look at the Seiko SARB035. And I'll give you 3 reasons why, especially if this is your first step up in watch quality, you need to buy one, and you need to buy one used. So with the watch in hand, let's start with reason number 1, which is design. Quite simply, this is the most beautifully designed watch I've ever owned. On the surface, it does look pretty minimally designed, but there's so many small details that all add up to culminate in such a beautiful offering that you notice new things about this watch almost every time you look at it. So let's start big and get small. So initially, the first thing that drew me to this piece is the dial color. It's an off-white that in certain angles looks kind of like a flat paper color, but when you move it around, you can see it's actually more of a sunburst effect. So a very active dial that no matter what angle you catch it at, either looks like a fun sunburst or a very elevated paper dial. Either way, looks beautiful. And something I haven't seen mentioned before, and one of my favorite little details about this watch, is how well integrated the lume is. It took me until recently to realize these hands aren't skeletonized. That's applied lume, just expertly color matched to the dial. I thought for the longest time these were hollow hour and minute markers. Not the case. They also kind of hide the lume on the end of each one of these applied indices. So kind of on the surface, you take a quick glance, it's a lumeless dial, just beautifully colored. Then you switch the lights off and boom, it shines bright. It does run out. This is not a diver level as far as lume goes, but for a dress watch, this is just perfect. A running theme for this watch is kind of how tough and robust it is while also being refined and beautifully detailed. It's a really nice balance that Seiko has struck with this watch. And the seconds track and the sewing needle second hand combination kind of shows more of that refined side. Just what a beautiful detail. I love the skeletonized eye of the needle on the counterbalance of the second hand. And that open rail track, it's very simple, but so effective. I think it's just the classiest look you can have on a seconds track. Another refined detail that I love is just the printing on the dial. First, there is an applied Seiko logo, but the automatic on the bottom, I love that script. It's not unique to this watch. Seiko has it on a lot of their offerings, including this cousin, the Alpinist. But for some reason, just seeing it, the combination of the script automatic and again, that off-white paper color on the dial, it just screams class to me in a way that no other watch has. Another very small detail I haven't seen mentioned before are the small black stripes on each of the hands. On the hour and minute hand, you can see right where the lume ends, these black lines begin, and you can only see them from certain angles. Sometimes you think it's a shadow, but in fact, there are 2 black lines. It helps so much with legibility. You wouldn't think that you need it, but especially with outdoor visibility, and I'm pulling in a shot of that right now, it makes the hands stand out so much better. Staying on the design compliment train, the case shape is perfect. The curved lugs as they go down make it fit perfectly onto your wrist. And this isn't a big watch to begin with. It's in fact a smaller watch, but I have a 7¼ inch wrist. I don't need a smaller watch, but still this just integrates on my wrist so much more. The sign crown as well, not only a great detail, but the size of the crown I think is absolutely perfect. At first glance, it might look a little large, but especially for my big old hands, to wind this watch is such a pleasure. The grip is perfect, and a lot of other watches, including one I will bring in for comparison later, the crown's so small, it's almost a pain to operate. This, whoops, as I hit, this, absolutely a joy. Another thing this watch does very well that some other dress watches don't is pull off a bracelet. I think it looks great on this oyster style bracelet. It's my favorite style of bracelet in general, but a lot of dress watches look either clunky or out of place on a metal bracelet. Going back to the versatility of this watch, either dress or weekend, I think this combination is stunning. This also, though, is a strap monster. I'm going to pull in a bunch of shots on the Havaston strap, this olive NATO strap that I have. It also looks stunning on the NATO. But again, as far as dress watches on a bracelet go, I don't think you get any better than the SARB and this oyster style. And reason number 2 to pick up this watch is quality. Again, this video is mostly focused at people like me who are taking their first step into the next tier of watches. I've been buying the bargain basement my whole watch collecting career, so I didn't think that there would be really much more value in spending $100 or $200 more on a Seiko, but I was wrong. I mean, design aside, which is hard to put aside because I love how much this watch looks, just the way this watch feels is also just a full obvious step above any other Seiko I've owned. Not only is it an upgraded movement, the SARB035 is hacking and hand winding, but the sapphire crystal, the full stainless steel with the solid link, solid end link milled clasp bracelet, all of that put together, the wonderfully proportioned and wonderful feeling crown, all of that comes together to make just an elevated feeling that if, like me, you haven't experienced before, it really is on a whole nother level. It's kind of the first watch that made me understand the appeal of luxury watches past a status symbol. I've always rolled my eyes at those $5,000, $10,000 watches, like what possibly could you get from that watch? And while I still don't think there's much to justify buying a $10,000 watch, I do understand that there are feelings of quality for each tier that are fully tangible, and this first step up to the next tier has just really made me understand that. And reason number 3 to pick up this watch is value for money. If you're like me and this is your first step into the next tier, spending $300 on a used watch might not seem like you're saving money, but what you get for that money is really quite astounding. Not only everything that we've already covered with the sapphire and the hacking and hand winding and the solid link bracelet, the reliable Seiko movement, but the crowning achievement for me is 100 meters of water resistance. You just do not find that on many dress watches, and that makes it a bona fide all-arounder for me, and that's what I'm also looking for. Different reasons, different abilities that this watch has. That's why it has such value for money. It's not just a dress watch for the boardroom or a wedding or a fancy date. You can really do anything with this watch, like for instance, I did this weekend when I did yard work proudly wearing the SARB. It's basically indestructible. That just adds so much more value than if it was just a 30-meter water-resistant dress watch. You buy a couple other straps like that olive NATO I've been showing, and you're set. There arguably is no need for any other watch. To put this in more of a perspective, I was looking to do a comparison video. And the first watch that I looked at was the Tissot Visodate. I think it's a gorgeous looking watch, and it really does have a lot of similarities to the Seiko SARB. But just right off the bat, even though it has sapphire crystal like the SARB and even a Swiss movement in the back, the 30 meters of water resistance just completely shut it down for me. That's all I needed to know that there was more value in the Seiko. So then I looked at this watch. Instead, and we have it here, the Seiko SNXS. I'll pull up the full model number. This is a very beautiful watch, and I picked it up for $86 with an extra strap. So $86 versus $300. Some people would say, why would you ever bother going for the $300? But this is something you can't fully know until you actually handle the next tier watch, and I didn't know until recently. Yes, this is a gorgeous watch, but there is just so much more in the SARB. Yeah, this is a great little knockaround, but also I'd be scared to knock it around. It doesn't have the sapphire or the water resistance of the SARB, so really you kind of still have to be careful with this one. And although this crown is nicely tucked in there behind, this is what I'm talking about as far as crown sizes. This little dinky crown, it's a pain to operate, and just those small little details all add up to really justify this being in the first price tier and this being in the second or arguably third price tier. All right, let's cover some negatives though, because it is not all sunshine and rainbows. I want to give a complete report on this watch. So let's start with the negative if you buy it used like I do, and that's going to be the condition that you get it in. Yes, it has sapphire crystals, so you're not terribly worried maybe about that, but as I'm sure you've been able to tell, the high polished bezel around this watch has a ton of scratches and scuffs all on it, most notably in this corner here. This watch came with those scratches, and if you are going to find one used for around $300, you also are going to be buying one with some scratches. If that's a big problem, I just want to get it out of the way now, but for me, it actually in some ways helps, because the biggest issue with this watch would be scratching around the bezel. This high polished bezel invites scratches. So for me to have it already kind of pre-worn in, it invites me to wear it further. I would be terrified to wear a sterile high polished bezel, especially because if you're buying this new, you're looking at around $500. So would I want to take a perfectly shiny $500 watch out to do yard work? I don't think so. Also, I kind of look at them like Japanese cars. It's basically still new. You can buy a Honda with 20,000 miles. You save a ton on the sticker price, yet you know you're going to have a wonderful, reliable car for years and years and years. So let's get to the actual negative, the biggest, most glaring negative that I can't stand, and it has to do with this bracelet. Well, actually, more specifically, it has to do with this clasp. 2 points of micro adjust. I'm going to get extra passionate about this because it is that lack of micro adjustment that makes this watch not fit me. There is no way for me to comfortably wear this watch. I mean, yes, it looks good right now. I'm not going to argue with you, but the bracelet is too tight. It is tight around my wrist right now, and if I add an extra link, it is far too loose. There is no happy medium for me, and it all comes down to the fact that there is no extra micro adjustment on this clasp, which for the amount of money we're paying, I think is 100% baloney. Pardon my language. All that being said though, this watch makes me feel like no other watch has. It sounds weird to say that about an inanimate object unless you're a watch fan, like I'm sure we all are, but this is just such a winner. I know a lot of people think the X factor goes to its brother, the SARB035, the black dial version. In fact, Jody at Just One More Watch had this watch, got rid of it, and then bought the black dial, and then he realized what a winner he had on his hands. But for me, it really is this cream dial that takes everything. It's just such a unique color to me. It's such a classy color. I think of parchment paper, I think of history, I think of antiquity, but I also think that this is such a strong, robust watch that combination of delicacy and toughness is just hard to beat, and you don't get that with the black dial version. I think it goes without saying, but I'll say it one more time. I love this watch. This is my first step up in Seiko quality, and it is so worth it. But speaking of that step up, this is why I'm recommending that you buy this watch used. $500 new, especially if you're a budget watch collector like I am, I'm not sure it's worth it. But used at $300, yes, it'll come with a few scratches on it, but as I mentioned, hopefully that will encourage you to just get out and wear it more and do more things with it, because this watch really is meant to go anywhere, do anything, and it really can be your one watch collection. Whew. I guess I didn't breathe in. Thanks so much for watching. There's 2 new videos every week on this channel, so you hit subscribe below. It really would help the channel. And I'd like to hear your input also in the comments. Do you already own this watch? Have you bought it used like I did? Do you understand this Japanese car analogy where really the first year or 2 shouldn't matter that much in this watch's life? Thanks again, and I'll see you soon.